Join us, Alix
and Colleen,
self-proclaimed fake it till you make it experts, as we navigate the highs and lows of being a woman and how the pressure and overwhelm of trying to do it all often leads to feeling like an imposter in our own lives. For our first episode of Season 3, Colleen and I navigate our own imposter syndrome recording in a new space, examine why those feelings pop up, and chat about what's to come this season.
Hi, Alix.
Hi, Colleen.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
You know what? It is Season 3.
Hard to believe.
Can you believe we're here?
No. I mean, yes, but no.
It's so cool to me that we started this as a passion project and something we wanted to have a little bit of fun with. And now, I don't know, it just feels really exciting to be in a third season of this passion project and friendship. I mean, our friendship's gone beyond three seasons, but it's cool.
Yeah, I think so. And it's kind of taken on some legs of its own. We'll get into a little bit later in this episode, just sort of where it's been and where it's going. But it's pretty exciting to be here. Welcome to Season 3.
Welcome. Talk to me about your summer. Tell me about your summer.
My summer was really good. You know, I made some changes at the very end of spring to really make sure that my client list was aligned, and made an effort to not take on more clients or more work so that I could have a little bit more flexibility through the summer. And, you know, it really paid off. Like I could really feel my stress levels down. Everyone that I'm working with right now is really aligned with where I want to go, and I have no complaints, you know?
I can feel that. I can feel like, I think you've had a really good summer. I can feel that you're comfortable, you're in your groove, you're doing your thing. Like, plus you've had an enjoyable summer, both you and your son. Like, your family's been enjoying your summer.
Yeah, like it's been a really nice summer for Carrie, and that's not always the case. And I've got to see him make some new friends and do some activities that he really enjoyed, and had some flexibility to also spend some time with him. So, you know, all good on my front. The only thing I have to say about summer is it's just never fucking long enough.
No,
like,
it isn't.
I'm not ready for it to be done.
I'm not either. We're heading into the new year and I'm not quite ready, except that I've had a busy summer in growth mode. So I have just been nose to the grind. Is that what they call it? Nose to the grind.
Grindstone. I don't know.
Grindstone. I don't know. Just working my butt off. I'm still in growth mode. I'm working with 3 different social media clients now and wooing a 4th, I guess you could say. I'm working on a 4th, and then I think I'll be in really good shape. Plus, I have all my Etsy stuff and all that other stuff on the go. But I've been working really hard this summer. Yeah.
You've been really killing it, and it really shows. You know, so.
Yeah, it's fun, though. Like, I'm loving what I'm doing. It really helps to love your job, right?
Yes.
Like, if I just liked what I was doing, I wouldn't. I'm loving it.
Well, that is the main thing.
Yeah.
So that's it. That was our summer. That's end of episode. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
It could be the end. So
we've kind of got some big news. Because we're in a new space. If you're listening, we probably sound a bazillion times better. We are Season 3, and we are now working with BNV Media.
BNV Media in downtown Halifax. Yeah, how exciting is this for us?
You know what I think? I think we made it. Does this mean we've made it?
100%.
So we can't say we're faking it until we're
that's
making
the
it
problem,
anymore.
right? So this is one of the things with us. You know, when we started Imposter Syndrome and we started this podcast, we were able to say, we don't know what we're doing. We have sorry about the sound, sorry about the fridges, sorry about whatever. We don't know what we're doing.
And now we don't have to know.
Now we don't have to know. You're right. We learned so much, but we just reached the point that it was time to up our game a little bit. We've got goals. We've got expectations for this podcast, and it was time to play a little higher game, raise the expectations, raise the roof. So here we are.
Yeah. So we're very excited to be here, but with new environments and new expectations comes in the sneaky little imposter syndrome. So even though we have been doing this for 2 full seasons, now into our 3rd, and we feel pretty comfortable with speaking to each other and speaking with guests, now we're in this like new studio. There's someone watching us.
Yeah, there's a dude in the room.
Yeah, there's no fridges, and so some new feelings of imposter syndrome have snuck in, and we thought it would be a really great opportunity for this first episode of the season to kind of dive into some of those root causes of imposter syndrome and some of the triggers that bring those feelings up and how we can then work to combat those. Because we talk a lot about people's experiences and how they navigate imposter syndrome, but we don't always dive into some of the root causes in a real meaningful way. So we just thought that would be a great way to open the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into some of the root causes because I personally am freaking out in this studio. My heart is pounding. It feels very strange. It feels very exciting and weird and vulnerable. And I feel like I could fail at any moment here. So it is the perfect time to dig into all of these root causes. So.
Yeah, because one of the major reasons that people start to feel imposter syndrome is when you have a new job or new responsibility or new promotion. So, and that's largely because of familiarity and comfort levels. So when we're doing something new, like us switching to a more produced studio, we have to learn the new systems. We have to learn how to talk into the microphone properly. We have to know where to look again. We have to actually feel a little bit more prepared than maybe just we have been winging it, every episode. So there's those are new expectations, new systems, and new people.
And new people. And that is true. Like when you start a new job, I mean, whole new computer system, whole new people, whole new, like all of it is very uncomfortable. And so here we are doing the same thing. So we are at the moment, we came into this room and they're like, oh, put the mic here and you have to have it a fist away from you. Like, it's strange because we are used to being in a little bit more control or something or having,
controlled, but it sounded like shit.
Well, that's all right. I mean, you did so good, Alex. Don't knock yourself down. But yeah, I mean, whenever there's a new job, that sort of thing, it is a freaky feeling because you're putting yourself out there and it's a very vulnerable feeling. And there's a lot of people starting new jobs for September or going back to school for the first time.
So September is definitely a time of renewal and new things, and it really sometimes makes you question your expertise, even despite previous wins.
Yeah, for sure.
So some of the ways that you can work through some uncomfortable feelings with a new job or a new environment is to seek mentorship, which we're kind of doing. Our friends here at BNV Media are coaching us through how to work in a more studio controlled environment. And that's really been helpful. We know a lot of other local podcasts have really sounded so good coming out of the studio. So it's really exciting, even though it is intimidating and overwhelming. But having that mentorship piece and someone that can really coach us through the AV things, which is something that we were really challenged with, is huge.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're in a new job, look out for find somebody in that space that can really help you through that new job and introduce you to new people and all of that sort of stuff. The other thing is a focus on learning, embrace that learning curve as, it's something new. It's a process. It's exciting. It's part of it. And acknowledge that everybody starts somewhere and growth comes with time.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we know about building confidence is you have to expand your comfort zone. You have to get to the other side of that discomfort, and that's where the confidence really starts. So you have to put yourself in those situations, as uncomfortable as they may be, understanding that it is short-lived and that's part of the process to really developing new skills and feeling more confident overall.
Yeah, for sure. And then besides getting a new job, there's always the new promotion, right? There's added responsibilities, higher expectations suddenly make you feel like you're not deserving of the role. Peer comparison, huge. I'm even looking at it right now. I'm thinking, okay, yeah, that's great. We're starting with this new BNV Media. But then I'm looking at, well, the other podcasts, what are they doing? What are they going to think of us that now we're upping a level? Are we good enough to be here? Man, the imposter syndrome is really tough here.
Yeah, I feel that too. And that's sort of the same mentality for me now. I had a different role when we were doing it our own. I was the tech person and I was editing. And now I'm just showing up and being a host and having to really dive into that role a little bit more, which is intimidating because I could hide behind I'm just the, one-liner. I'm just the tech person. That was the role that I was doing. Albeit mediocrely, but so this is a kind of a different promotion, I guess. I'll call it a promotion. I
don't
give very many
It's
promotions
right.
anymore that I'm self-employed. So I'll call it a promotion. But it is. It's new expectations, new things that you have to learn and even get okay with in your mind.
Yeah, my mind's not okay with it right now. So I guess how you work through these types of things with a new promotion, you have to set realistic expectations. I mean, I envision our sound and everything is going to be so much better, but you and I as hosts are definitely going to grow as this goes on, so we have to set realistic expectations.
But I also think, too, we can't come in and expect that we're going to understand immediately how to work in this environment and that everything is going to go like perfectly. Not that we ever had expectations of perfection, to be honest,
Never.
but trying to figure out what those realistic expectations are for as we adjust.
Yeah.
And that's
sure.
the same thing in any new promotion, setting small goals for yourself. Like maybe it's like you just understand the outline of your job 1 week and then you start to put in some small goals to start working towards those. But whatever it is, to making those smaller expectations easier to accomplish, then you're just building confidence along the way.
Yeah, and if you are in a new promotion, that sort of thing, one of the key things is to communicate. Openly discuss those expectations with your supervisor, clarify your role, and get feedback on the progress.
100%. I think often we don't want people to know that we don't know things, but that just actually hinders us. When I started my business, one of the things I decided I was going to do is never pretend that I knew more than I did. Because in the end, I'm just chasing that to try to cover my tracks. Whereas if you're just really vulnerable with people and be like, you know what, that's a really good question. I don't know the answer to it right now, but I'll find it out for you.
You look like such an idiot when you're trying to come up with an answer on the spot. Like, oh, yeah, but no, don't bullshit it. If you don't know it, you don't know it. Find out the answer. You're in that position because you know where to get the answers, who to turn to, where to find them, and how to formulate it and come back. I mean, so stop trying to pretend and fake it. We got to stop faking it.
I think vulnerability will get you so much further than arrogance.
For sure. Serving up hot brews, refreshing cold drinks, lots of fresh baked goodies, and delicious lunch options. Visit the Mellow Mug in the heart of Larry Utech for dine-in, takeout, or drive-through service. Their spacious cafe offers a casual and inviting vibe that's perfect for everything from enjoying a good book, hanging with friends, or meeting a colleague. The Mellow Mug is your neighborhood spot for great coffee and delicious eats and sweets. New responsibilities.
Well, I mean, that's so wide-reaching, but that could be from anything, like even a new friendship or, a new board position or a new volunteer thing or, a new community that you're a part of. There's some gaps there in skills perhaps that you have to address.
And it really triggers that imposter syndrome, eh? The second you've got new responsibilities, you're like, I find it even, I started with a new client this summer, so brand new responsibility, brand new client. And I got to tell you, the first couple of weeks, I was like imposter syndrome hit me so hard. It wasn't funny. Yeah. I was like, why am I working with this client? I shouldn't be working with this client. There's other people that should work with this client better. I was perfectly equipped, but the imposter syndrome hits you when you've got a new responsibility.
Yeah, I always find that when I sign a new client as well, because you have to get to know them. You have to get to know their brand voice. You have to get to know how they communicate, how they want to show up. And there's often a really gray period in there where things that you've done before maybe don't work as well. So it's that skill gap that you have to kind of try to close. And in the process, it's really uncomfortable and it can make you feel like you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you kind of have to, with imposter syndrome, get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yes.
And that's pretty uncomfortable. So good fucking luck with that. How to get through some of this is skill development, actively seek resources and training to bridge any real or perceived skill gaps. And remember, expertise is built over time. And I think one of the things here is when I say perceived skill gap, chances are you've got the skill. It's in there. You were hired for a reason. You've got these new responsibilities for a reason. Stop doubting yourself. Stop putting yourself down.
Well, and the beauty of today's world is that you can find resources and information on any skill that you need.
You can YouTube anything.
Yeah, YouTube, even ChatGPT, obviously,
Right.
is a really great way to help in the meantime until you've got that skill under your belt.
I would like to point out one of the things Alix has done this summer, a new skill that she has been learning, you're learning from YouTube, is making granny squares.
That's right.
Alix has turned into
I have embraced my middle-aged. Is this middle-aged or like old?
Well, they would have said over the hill before, but no, you're middle-aged.
Geriatric millennial status.
Geriatric granny squares. The other thing is positive affirmations. Listen, put it on your mirror, write it on your wall, tell yourself, wake up in the morning telling yourself how great you are. Don't you always think of that little girl that stands on the counter with the curly hair and she's like, what does she say? I'm strong. I can do anything. I love my mom. I love my dad. I love my house. Like, don't stand on your counter. You might break something, but.
I mean, positive affirmations are a huge tool. I struggle with that. But I do give myself pep talks and try to think about, is this a rational thought? Like, is there any kind of real backing to this? Or is this just something that my mind is telling me? And I find that to be a little bit more helpful. If you're not super woo and you find affirmations to be a little bit difficult to get behind, sometimes it's just helpful to kind of think about whether the thoughts are actually rational.
Or find your friend who's like, that's what we do for each other. Find the friend who's going to do those positive affirmations for you.
Yes.
When you know that somebody's having a rough week or whatever, like, we still meet every Thursday and sometimes, and trash talk our week, go through our week. And sometimes you just need that person to either listen to you or be the one that's saying, hey, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job parenting. You're doing a wonderful job as a friend. Like, you just need that person to boost you up. So
perspective is everything. And if you hear the same messaging from people over and over, you start to believe it yourself. So if you can't tell yourself and believe it, listen to your peers and your friends and your community, because everyone else believes in you. So it's about time you do it too.
One of the toughest things when imposter syndrome hits is talking about new things, is new parenthood.
Yeah, new parenthood, but just parenthood in general, honestly, because every stage is like a brand new person that you're, raising.
Yeah.
So there is so much imposter syndrome that comes into play when you're parenting.
Yeah, for sure. My daughter is about to become I'm about to become a grandmother. My daughter is about to become a mother in October. And I just look at her and my little heart is just like, oh, there's so many changes coming her way. And changes coming my way too. Let me tell you, parenting has changed. The way you parent is different than it was 30 years ago for me. So I feel like, I'm going to Germany in mid-October, and I feel like I need to learn a lot as well But
that's the thing, and that's why parenthood is such a trigger, is because you cannot prepare. You really can't prepare for parenthood. People can tell you as much bullshit as you want. You'll hear so much stuff as you're pregnant and preparing. And even as a new parent, you're going to hear so many things. But honestly, every kid is different. Every parent is different. Every situation is different. And until you're in it and doing it, you're just not going to know what works for you. So there is zero way to be prepared. I remember everyone telling me the whole time I was pregnant, oh, it's going to be this, this, and this. And I just couldn't envision it. I couldn't envision it. And the second that he was here, everything changed. And there was nothing that could prepare me for that. So it's very hard to then have everything in your life kind of change. And you don't feel like you're equipped to do it. Like, there's no real manual on parenting.
Well, there's no manual at all. And you know what? One of the things that we don't do well as women in general, I think, maybe men too, but women is to not trust our guts. Trust your instinct, trust your gut. If you've got a weird feeling about something, if something's off, then chances are something's off.
Yeah.
I
think it takes some experience as a parent to be able to understand what that intuition even means, though. Like, when you're first postpartum, like, you're so full of hormones and lack of sleep, and you can't trust anything you think.
Oh, I'm so glad I'm going to spend some time with my daughter. The Germany system is really interesting. She actually will have a midwife with her for 3 weeks, a couple of hours a day, like, just to check in on her. And we didn't have that. Like, it's unbelievable. So they've got a lot of supports, and I'm going to support her as well, because it's a tough time. New parenthood, parenting in general is a tough time. Reach out for community support. Join parenting groups, both in person and online, to share your experiences with others. That's one of the ways to get through parenting. And self-compassion.
Yeah, like I started a baby group way back when on Kijiji, because that's what was the cool thing to do at that time, or the only thing to do, I guess. I was a single parent. I had no friends that had children, and it's pretty isolating, you know. So I put an ad on Kijiji and started this baby group. And by the time I went back to work, it had grown to like, I think 25 or 30 moms. And I made some amazing friends through that group. And it was huge for me to kind of have that support system and to be able to bounce things off other people who were going through similar things. And funny enough, my son's best friend, he met her in this baby group, but then we moved, like I was living in Dartmouth at the time and they were living in the community that we live now. And we ended up moving into that community. They started going to school together in grade primary and they are best friends. Oh. So it's kind of amazing because we have that there's a background. And I already knew her parents. And so it was just a really nice kind of thing and was so helpful to me.
Yeah.
You know, and another thing too with parenting is the societal pressures that you need to be a certain way. Like you need to have these elaborate birthday parties, that you need to reaching all these milestones, that your kid needs to be acting in this particular way. And, you know, that is just blown so far out of proportion and it becomes impossible to try to live up to these ideals. So I think recognizing that a lot of that stuff is a highlight reel and complete fucking bullshit. Yeah. And B, your lifestyle will dictate what you're able and wanting to do.
Yeah. I think social media has been very unfair to a lot of things, but to parenting in general and to new moms in general. It's cruel. It's awful. And everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got something to say. The second you post a photo of you and your child, somebody is in there going, "Oh, why don't they have a hat on their head?" Or "You should do this." Or "Why are they like, your baby's looking pale? I think there's something wrong with their eye. They obviously must have such and such a disease." Like, it is ridiculous. Parents are, people behind the keyboard are saying all this stuff about photos you post. Like, it's got to be hard on new moms.
Yeah, so understanding that social media is not real, for the most part, saying that as two people that work in it.
Work in social media, It's real, Alex. I don't know what you're talking about.
But being able to kind of decide what info you want to take and what you don't, and maybe creating some boundaries around it when you're a new parent or in a new stage of parenthood is a really good way to reframe some of that messaging. And
even as your kids get older too, because, you're going through the teen years with the kids and you're looking at your kid compared to other people's kids thinking, "Oh, I'm doing it all wrong."
Well, and even like my son really wants Snapchat and we've been really against it. And every other kid since he's been 11 has had a Snapchat account. And it's ridiculous to me that, so many kids are on what I consider to be a pretty dangerous platform. And I don't know if it's just because I have a bit more background in social media that I'm like, I really don't feel comfortable with that. But that's hard too, because you don't want your kid to be the only kid that doesn't have something. I grew up that way a lot. Yeah. I was the only kid that wasn't allowed to go to this and that and the other thing. And those were smart moves by my mom, but it still sucked to be the only one out. So, like I just bought Crocs for my son yesterday.
I know,
and that is a hill that I thought I would fucking die on. And here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are. So
I will, Alex being so fashionable and you are so against
Crocs are in.
I know Crocs are in and Alex is against them. But I think I stated before we started this podcast, and I'm going to state it publicly, that Alex is going to be in a pair of Crocs at some point.
Will never happen.
We'll see.
It is a slippery slope now. I have bought them, so
you have.
I don't know. Anyway, all I'm saying is, don't take pressures from parenthood too seriously. Do your own thing.
New experiences in general are, leaving the new parenthood topic behind, but new experiences in general are tough to get through. Are tough. The imposter syndrome comes out big time. Whether you're even starting like a new club, like you said, you started this parenting club. People going to that club that day would have been stressed out. Us coming in this studio today, stressed out. You joining a new sport, you get stressed out. Like it's an uncomfortable feeling to try new experiences. But we can't just all sit at home and on our couches and do nothing.
No, I mean, sometimes those are the most rewarding things when we're pushing ourselves outside of comfort zones and going to events where we don't know very many people. I joined this non-book club last year that I really enjoyed. And it was exactly that. Like we had a topic. You didn't have to read a book. You could bring any kind of reference that you wanted that kind of furthered the topic. And then we would have all these discussions around it. And it ended up being such an enjoyable activity, but it was intimidating. I didn't know who was going to be there, and, showing up and introducing yourself and, trying to insert into conversations. Those are always intimidating moments where you feel like, oh, what do I have to offer to this conversation? But every time I've left one of those meetings, I've just felt so empowered because I was able to have really great conversations, was able to speak and have everyone look at me, which is something that I was never able to do. So I think we always grow from those experiences.
I'm always blown away with the people that show up at our live events on their own.
Yeah.
And I think, power to you. Like, how amazing to show up somewhere new where you don't know people and just put yourself out there. And that's impressive to me.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's often where you actually gain the most insight when you're not sticking close to someone that you know, because you're forced to get into conversations. You're forced to be a part of something. So it's not easy. I still really dislike walking into rooms by myself, probably always will. But the more you do it.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with it. I usually need to bring along you.
Well, and likewise.
There you go. Let's talk a little bit about gender roles,
That's a big
patriarchy, and how we feel about imposter syndrome around all of that and how it works.
I mean, some of that messaging, it's just been ingrained into us. So that's a little bit trickier to overcome, particularly gender roles, which is starting to get a lot more attention now, which is great. But there's still a lot of deep-rooted feelings and thoughts about women in the workplace and certain roles. And there's still a lot of industries that are more gender specific. So sometimes if we're working in one of those industries that is been historically a more male populated industry, you can have those feelings of inadequacy or that you don't belong there. Yeah. So those are things that I think are continuing to be developed and talked about, thankfully. But given what the shit that's happening in the U.S. right now, like it's pretty scary because in a lot of ways it feels like we are also moving backwards
going
at the same time.
So. Yeah, I feel like we're in a really volatile time right now. It feels very uncomfortable again. Like I felt like we had gotten past so much stuff and then it's all coming back up. I don't know. It's a scary time, I feel.
Yeah, I think so too. And then, you've got discrepancies in pay and so many other things that can kind of make you feel uncomfortable or inadequate in your position or trying to grow.
And it's funny, I worked in IT for years and I look back now at the difference in pay between me and my male counterparts. And in some cases, I had the degree and I had the education and, all of this sort of stuff and experience, and they still made more. And I had to fight for the money I was making. And I'm kind of pissed off at myself that I didn't fight harder, or that things were different. I don't know. It's annoying to me now when I look back.
Certainly. And I had a similar experience where my male coworker who had the same level of education, I actually had more seniority, was getting paid like $10,000 more than me. And it's really frustrating. But in a lot of ways, you don't have a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of recourse right now, more now than that. That was about 10 years ago for me. But I think there is more recourse now, but it's still really tricky because as a woman, if you're asking for more money, you're being annoying. Or if you're like having an opinion, sometimes that's considered to be bossy or aggressive.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope. We're still there. And I think a lot of it is to raise awareness, educate yourself and others about gender biases that contribute to imposter syndrome too. So, we know that there's a lot of imposter syndrome around gender stereotypes. So if you are in a boardroom, don't sit back and let your male counterparts have all the say. Like, open your mouth, speak up, be there, find your confidence, or you're going to really be pissed off at yourself.
Yeah, and if you're in an environment where that's just not an option, maybe seeking new employment if possible. I mean, obviously, it's not always available, and we're coming from a bit of a place of privilege to even just assume that you can just move around if need be. And sometimes it's not available. But trying to raise awareness in different women's groups and forwarding and amplifying voices and, seeking those female identifying role models and trying to learn as much as you can about how to really empower and move forward.
Yeah, we have so many women that come in here on the podcast and they're like, I feel like I don't belong, or I feel, listen, you're not alone. So power through it. You're good. Try and push some of those feelings aside. One of the ways to combat imposter syndrome is to actually listen to how awesome the people in your life think you are. If you're looking for the perfect gift for a loved one, where you can tell them all of the things that make them special, visit my Drawbridge Creative Etsy shop and purchase a Things We Love About You custom poster. With several styles to choose from, it's a fabulous gift for any milestone birthday, anniversary, retirement, or just because. Childhood messaging. That's another one. How we were raised. This is such a huge root cause for imposter syndrome for so many people.
Well, particularly in our generation.
For sure, is our old narratives. Children praise solely for achievements rather than effort.
Hello, boomers.
Right?
I know my mom listens. I love you, Mom.
She's wonderful.
But yeah, I think that a lot of us were raised with that sort of you need to achieve, and no fault to our parents because their parents were descendants of the Depression, so there was a lot of messaging there too that then came into their messaging. So it was a different time. Parents were way more hands off than they are now, and in some ways that's probably a better thing. But in some ways it was challenging, and we grew up with a lot of messaging, and we have to be always performing, and we always have to be producing.
There was high expectations.
Yeah.
There was high expectations, a lot of pressure from family during childhood. And that can persist into adult life.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, it's that conditional love. You feel like you're only loved if you're producing, if you're pushing the dial forward. So those can really create some feelings of imposter syndrome when you are trying to take a step back and rest and take care of your mental health and your body and your physical health. Yeah. Because it can be really uncomfortable to do nothing. I really struggle with that.
Yeah. I mean, you can't be working all the time. Burnout is so huge.
Well, that's why I'm crocheting granny squares now.
It's so important. I mean, we've talked to Dr. Ashley Murchison here on the podcast, and she specializes in burnout. And we've both seen it. We've both been there. And a lot of women who've been on our podcast have been there. And you really have to stop.
Yeah. It's hard, though.
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend crochet.
Yeah, crocheting. You did good. Or
coloring.
Good this
I don't
summer.
know. I do a bunch of different things to kind of shut my brain down. But.
I found for myself, I have to work on that because I found for myself that I lost a lot of my hobbies because my work is very much my hobby. So playing on the computer and doing all that creative stuff. And then all of a sudden I just feel like I'm working all the time. So you got to get out of that mindset of high expectations and feeling, anyway.
Yeah.
Reframe your thoughts.
Fixed versus growth mindset.
Oh, is that what it's called?
Yes, apparently. That's what my notes say.
Aren't you fancy?
Children praise solely for achievements rather than effort might develop a fixed mindset where they feel any need for hard work signals a lack of intelligence or capability. And I really identify with that a lot. And I know a lot of people do. It's a narrative that I've heard a lot, that we always need to be doing something to be valuable.
But we don't.
No.
We can sit on the couch and we can watch TV. We can binge. We can read a book. You can knit granny squares.
Exactly.
And you're still valuable and contributing to society. So we have to reframe our thoughts, work on recognizing and changing negative thought patterns about your abilities and worthiness. Mm-hmm. I started reading that book, Worthy, this year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I got a few chapters into it and it was freaking me out so much. I was doing a deep dive into my mental state and I shut the book. I'm like, I can't deal with this right now. I didn't have time. But I need to. I need to revisit it because it was triggering for me a whole lot.
I mean, changing those feelings and thinking about yourself a little bit differently. Our generation has also been trained not to think too highly of ourselves because if we did, we were knocked down a few notches.
Yeah.
So it's hard to self-promote. It's hard to be proud of ourselves because that feels uncomfortable and also triggers feelings of imposter syndrome. So taking time to actually look at our achievements, and it's like that thing that we would say, when you're documenting your wins, so the hype folder or whatever it is,
Yeah.
to have that thing to look back on, to really be able to say, hey, I am good at things, and other people think this, and I need to, acknowledge that I have some wins too.
And if it's not working for you, if none of this is working for you, if you can't lift yourself up, if you can't get yourself out of the imposter syndrome mode, seek professional therapy.
Yeah, 100%.
We both highly, highly believe in it, because you can learn so much about yourself just from digging deep.
Well, and some of that messaging is really deep. You can't just tell yourself that it's not true. Sometimes you have to go back to why those messages are there and talk, like redirect that a little bit.
For sure.
So I think therapy is huge. I'm going tomorrow morning. I look forward to it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You do good with therapy. The problem with therapy is the other part of it is it costs so much money.
Yeah.
So again, we're coming from a,
Place of
privilege to talk about going to therapy so lightly because it's expensive.
It is.
And not everybody has coverage and whatnot. Few other additional root causes of imposter syndrome, cultural factors.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge one. I mean, I don't deal with that.
Yeah, we're not really equipped to speak on it, but we've certainly seen it, and a few of our guests and are aware of it, and that's a huge, huge part of imposter syndrome for sure.
Your educational background.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge. Who attends the highly competitive schools might feel the need to prove themselves, but then there's other people that, I hear so many people are like, oh, well, I didn't go to university, so I wouldn't. It's like, don't say that. You've got a lifetime of experience, and you're still going back to this old adage of I didn't go to university. Like, I don't know.
I agree. I think that it doesn't level the playing field, and understanding your levels of expertise are much deeper than educational.
Yeah. And then there's the mental health issues.
Yes, which is, an endemic right now between anxiety and depressive disorders. Feelings of self-worth are kind of hand in hand with that. And, it's huge. It's across the board.
So we really today wanted to dig into some of the imposter sisters. Why do I keep saying imposter sisters?
Because their branding is so good.
It's the imposter syndrome root causes. So there's,
Yeah, I mean, we're giggling, but there's a lot of serious topics in there. And we do try to address those when we interview people. And just what we like so much about this project is that it's really brought some key elements to the surface to be able to talk about these issues that a lot of women face, and have a community to be able to feel what other people are feeling and how they've overcome that. So just a little bit of a foundation as we head into this new season.
I know. I'm so excited. Season 3.
And look at us, so professional here.
We are professional. We've both got a mic.
I know. What? And my phone hasn't run out of memory yet.
Right? It's amazing. Let's take a look at season 1, season 2. What are some of the highlights? So we did 12 episodes.
I think so.
First season. Season 2, we did 20 episodes.
Yeah.
We've had 2,500 plus downloads.
It's almost at 2,800. I checked right before.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah, we don't know.
The interesting thing I found, looking at, we were getting emails through the summer and stuff. I was like, wow, people are still listening to us over the summer when we're not there. We're not promoting it. So I don't know. That sounds good to me. Doesn't it sound good to you?
I think so. I think there's everyone we talk to is always like, oh, that's such a great topic. There needs to be more emphasis and more awareness on that. So I think we're happy to continue to tell people's stories or help them tell them those stories. And then also some offshoots of being able to speak to groups. Last year, we were able to speak for Manulife at their International Women's Day, which was hugely gratifying from both our aspects, from our point of view, but also the people that were there who came up to us afterwards and were able to share their stories and how much they related to it. And some people even were really emotional about it. So it's nice to open up the
dialogue.
Yeah.
Just open up those conversations. It's so important. It's a huge topic.
Yeah.
A lot of us are struggling with it. So to be able to normalize it by talking about it is so important.
Yeah.
I love doing the speaking engagement. Alix has a new speaking engagement coming up.
It's true.
And we are looking for more. Alix is speaking at a phenomenal conference on October 6th called Speak Up with Jess Clerk. We had Jess on.
She's at the end of the season.
Towards the end of the season. If you didn't listen to that episode,
like that.
Go listen to it. Man, she is magical. She's sunshine. She's positive. She's just a lot of energy. And she's doing a conference in Halifax in October. Alix will be one of the speakers. Tell us about your...
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm talking about personal branding, but not just from a business perspective, but just from a overall perspective, like who we are, especially for middle-aged women who are often coming kind of to the surface a little bit after spending years setting up their career and sometimes parenting or being a partner and mostly putting everyone's needs above their own. And then finally, having a little bit of space to be like, who am I now? Especially as we get into like menopausal and perimenopausal and all that lovely shit that I am sailing through right now. So, and I know a lot of other women are also identifying with that, like, who the fuck am I and what matters to me? So putting together this kind of framework on what that personal brand is and how we use it to make decisions that are aligned and to build relationships that are aligned and also for career goals and aspects, but just mostly something of our own to live by.
Yeah. They are having, this conference is going to be great, all about building your confidence and finding your people and finding mentors, finding comfort in who you are and as a person. It's going to be a really great conference, I think. I will be there. We're both going to the VIP night. The night before, you can get a VIP ticket. We're going out on a boat.
Yeah, boat cruise.
Boat cruise. And so tickets are available. We'll put the link in our show notes. If you use the code Colleen, COLLEEN, or Alix, ALIX, you can get 10% off your ticket.
Yeah, so that's going to be a really cool event. We're excited to kind of have some representation there. And, we're really excited about this season. We've got some amazing guests lined up already. The cool thing about now being in third season is that we don't really need to recruit guests as much.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people reach out to us to want to be on the show.
Yeah.
The show. Is this a show?
Yes, it's a show.
It's a show. Who want to be on. So we're going to be reaching out, setting all of that up.
And if you'd like to be on, get in touch with us.
Yeah.
The cool thing, too, is now that we're recording in a studio is that we're not recording on Sunday nights anymore.
That's going to be so nice for us.
Fucking so glad.
Sundays were hard, guys.
The worst.
There was...
We love you, all our guests, but Sunday nights?
Sundays were hard. It was really funny because we did Sunday nights because that's when the coffee shop was closed. But Alix and I would sometimes walk in there and we're like, oh my God, I had it. Like, because we spent all day Sunday thinking, we're working hard tonight. Like the whole day. So you couldn't.
So Sunday nights were also not great for you. Now we have a lot more flexibility.
We've got a lot more flexibility. So we're looking for guests. Always. So reach out to us. We're looking for more speaking engagements. So reach out to us if you've got a conference that you're running or attending that you think we should be a good guest at or a good speaker at. Let us know.
We're also looking for advertisers this year.
We are.
Because now we are a big deal.
We are so big.
I don't know if you know that about us.
We are so big. We're sitting in an office right now overlooking the Halifax Harbor.
Exactly. So.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about working with BNV Media is that we have more reach, we have more audience, we're working with an established producer. So we would love to send your message out to our listeners too. We have a really captive, female-focused, middle-aged, I'd say, also business owner, entrepreneur audience. So if that is an audience you're looking to reach, get in touch with us because our rates are reasonable.
And huge thanks to the advertisers that we do have on board this year. Make sure you don't just fast forward through those ads because those are women who are supporting us and, really cool women businesses. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else you got?
We need to say thanks to Mellow Mug. They've been such a huge support to us. They even didn't change their Sunday hours so that they could still offer their space to us. And they have been an amazing support. And we will continue to do our live events there for sure. But we just couldn't get to a polished sound with all the fridges. And again, the Sunday night thing.
I miss the fridges. The fridges did something for me.
The white noise.
The white noise helped me. I got to say, there's no white noise in this room, and it's been a little off-putting for me. So I've got to get used to not being in a fridgy room. But yes, the Mellow Mug, they just were so accommodating and so wonderful. Their staff, if you've never been, please go. They've got some great coffees, great food, great lunches, and we think an awful lot of Marquesa and her team.
Yeah.
I remember when we first went to her and said, what do you think about doing a podcast? She was like, absolutely. Like she was just so great with us, you know, and always had a smile on her face, always, I don't know, she was just great. She's been great. So thank you, Mellow Mug, for really helping us launch this podcast.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So we're going to sign off. We are going to have some guests coming in the next couple of episodes.
Yeah, it won't just be us.
It won't just
spewing
be us.
shit.
Yeah. We spew
every
good
episode.
shit.
Sure.
We'll bring in some guests, and thank you all. Welcome to season 3. And if you are new to the podcast, welcome. We've got a wonderful Instagram page at Imposter Sisters. Give us a follow. Make sure you rate.
Give us a review. That would really help push us up. You can also find us at impostersisterspodcast.com.
Follow us at find us at impostersisters.com. So find us in all the places and share, tell your friends about us. You know.
We love your support, and thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Imposter Sisters. Please remember, we're not doctors or mental health experts. If you're looking for mental health guidance, please see our show notes for local resources. Until next time, keep your head high, and we will see you next Tuesday.